Wow. Well, it's with a very, very sad heart and soul. I learned that a kid I thought of as like a little brother for the last 15 years or so is dead. Rest in peace, Jeremy. Jesus. So let's tell his story. I just found out he died. I knew he got arrested a couple days ago. I hadn't heard from him in a while. He texted me 4 or 5 days ago, and I didn't reply right away. A couple days later, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right." Jeremy texted me. Nothing crazy. Like, "Hey, bud." He was having a hard time. He's up in Virginia. He's having trouble finding a job. He'd get a job, lose the job. He has all his life. He had addiction problems. I mean, I met Jeremy. I don't even know how long ago, man. It's got to be 20 years. Has it been that long? Maybe not. I don't know. Back in my early 20s and my mid 20s, when I was just getting into my career, but I was still going to clubs and partying, and somehow our paths crossed. I forget how. Maybe it was one of the dudes I bought pills off or something. I don't know. We had this like big brother little brother vibe, and it's just one of those things where you click. Almost like what's that movie with Will Ferrell? Are we gonna be best friends? Yep. That kind of thing. I don't know why. And I felt like like a little brother vibe. So he was having a tough time. His mother died when he was very young. I believe it was from drugs. I found her obituary the other day because I Googled him because I couldn't get a hold of him. I texted him, and I had something that was telling me something's wrong. I don't. I'd go months without talking to him, and he'd reach out every now and then. Like I do with most of my friends. We don't talk a lot. We reach out every once in a while. Everyone's got their own shit going on. Uh, so yeah, I meet him, and he got kicked out of his house from his uncle's house because he's fucking up. Partying, doing drugs. And I was like, and we're having a good time. Drinking, smoking some weed. We're doing a little sniff. It's 20 years ago, 25. Just having a little fun. And I was like, all right, dude, I'm gonna help you out, bro. I had my townhouse. I had a roommate. I had several fucking roommates. There's a whole separate video for all the. I had one dude, a roommate from Colorado, that I swear to Christ was a serial killer. It was a ginger guy, kind of fat, shaved, pulled up in like an old, like a beat up fucking. I think it was a Buick Skylark, with like Colorado license plates that were expired by like 3-4 years, and he never spoke a word. He was like this chubby ginger guy, except for when he came to see the place. And I was so behind it, I needed to rent a room, or otherwise, I was going to lose my shit. This is right before the crash of 2008, where the home values plummeted. And I had taken some money out of the equity to pay off credit cards and some other stuff, but at the time it was worth a bit of money, like now, basically, where the values are really high and you see the commercials for tons of equity, buy a boat, fix up your house, go on vacation. Buy a Knight's Armament rifle or two, fuck, that kind of shit. So, I had all these weird fucking roommates that they'd come and go because that one serial killer guy, he'd just walk in the house. I'd be like fresh home from the office, sitting on my couch, and the door you'd hear the key in the door, and I'd cringe every time because he like walked in, like didn't even look at you. I just kept walking to his door, and he'd shut the door. You wouldn't see him again. He might come out to use the bathroom once or twice. Go to put stuff in the fridge. Wouldn't look at me. I swear to Christ, he was a serial killer. I wouldn't be shocked if he was. He just creeped me the fuck out. Didn't talk. Mr. Hey, how you doing? Hey, let's have a beer. Anyway, I'll make a separate video on the various roommates I had. It's kind of funny. So I had just had a roommate leave. I don't know if I asked them to leave or they left on their own. See, I had a thing where the roommates I didn't like, but I didn't want to have confrontation. I had my cheap turntable set up. I used to blast them fuckers to like 12 o'clock, 1 a.m. Boom, boom, boom. And they'd come out and go, hey, turn that down. I'm trying to sleep, man. I got to work. I was like, oh, sorry about that. I turned it down, then I turned it up. But then a couple of weeks they were gone. It worked. When I met Jeremy, he wasn't in a good way, but he was this young, vibrant kid. You know, you can tell he had a good heart. He just had a really tough life. And when his mom died, he was all fucked in the head from it. And addiction is what he turned to. And he didn't come from a family with money. And he was bouncing around from family member to family member. And he was doing drugs, you know. I didn't know how serious his drug. I thought he was just, you know, at that time, I wasn't a serious drug guy. I mean, I'd party every now and then. I didn't have much money to party with because of the townhouse and all the bills. I wasn't making a lot of money. Car payments, you know. But, you know, usually just smoke some weed or drink some, get drunk, some beers, watch some cool flicks. I got this big Panasonic widescreen TV, the projection one. We used to sit there and, you know, get high and we'd watch The Hangover and sing the song, "We're the three best friends that anyone could have." We had this lawyer guy. What was his name? He was a riot. Great guy. And the three of us would sit there and smoke weed and do a few lines and watch Hangover and dance around and sing and, you know, just have a good time, you know? Three bros just hanging out. All the stresses of life, fuck it. Just you and your bros, you know? That was the vibe for a while. It was fun. It was cool, you know? But eventually that got old, you know? I mean, you're in your early to mid 20s. You're trying to establish your career. You can't be up till 2, 3 in the morning, getting shit faced every night. And that started to affect my job because I'd be exhausted. And then it got to the point where I said, "You got to get a job. You know, you got to contribute something here, man." He had a job at Subway for a while. He didn't have it up here really. So you know, it got to the point, and then stuff started to go missing from the house. I'd go to work, and then there'd be like jewelry and things there, anything not nailed down. Oh, nothing but lies. Just going selling my shit and stuff. And eventually, I had enough, and I was like, "Dude, you gotta get the fuck out." We had this big fight. I remember the night because I was at a point where I was gonna move out and rent the whole townhouse because the crash was starting to kick in. The values were going down. The association was charging exorbitant amendment fees for, you know. Think what was I paying per month, and just for the administrative fees, like $400 a month. It would jump from $275 to $400 for nothing. They did nothing. But you signed the contract, and it was just like, I'm gonna lose this place. So we had to fight. I was like, "Dude, you gotta get the fuck out. I'm sorry, I have nowhere to go." And we got into a heated thing back and forth. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I gotta move out of here too. I gotta rent this place out so I could hold on to the property. The crash was going on, the value plummeted, I was underwater, it was just bad times. Eventually he threw his shit in some garbage bags, jumped on his bike, and just fucking bicycled down the street, alright? After that, I never heard from him for several years. I eventually sold that townhouse. I didn't hear from him for I don't know how many years it was, but he ended up hooking up with some other idiots, total losers, and somehow he ended up in North Carolina. And they all did something. They went to someone's house to steal something or whatnot, or he said he was in the car and he just wanted to ride home, and they were going to do something, and then they all said it was him. So he ends up in prison, apparently. 3, 4, 5 years in prison, whatever it was. So I didn't talk to him for years. I don't know how many years it was, but I just moved on with my life, you know, whatever. But I always felt bad for the kid, and I always hoped he'd find his way and straighten out. And it was a tough road. He didn't have anyone to help him. So when he eventually got out of prison, and he was up in Virginia for some reason. I don't know the story of how he ended up in Virginia. I think they started in Carolina, and then they went up to Virginia, or I don't know. So he gets out. He's in like a halfway house situation. He has to get a job and pay. And that's when he reaches out to me again. By that time, I'm living up here now. You know, it's like, you know. It's like, he started reaching out. I was like, do I really want to even talk to this guy? He was nothing but a fucking thief and a liar. He stole my shit. And I tried to treat him like family, and he fucked me. But I was like, addiction makes you do strange things. So I reached out, you know. I tried to help him here and there. I sent him some cash here and there and tried to encourage him. I know it was tough. This is deep into COVID now. We're finding a job in a big city was a bit difficult because everything was closed, but even harder in some bumblefuck small town in Virginia, right? I sent him some money here and there, $40, $60, $40, $50, you know. I knew he was desperate, so I tried to help him out. And, you know, he said he was off the drugs, he wasn't doing drugs, and he was doing fine, but then he started talking about he doesn't want to live anymore, and he's depressed, and He finally gets off probation, and I bring him back around. We talk on the phone, and one time he was up on the mountain in Virginia. He's like, I thought twice about just jumping off and killing myself or hanging my whatever. And I tried to. Eventually he'd feel a little better. Then he hooked up with this girl who had a small daughter, and he was just struggling, trying to find his way. He kept telling me he wanted to move back to Florida when he could and all that. I was like, well, dude, you can't come here. Sorry, those bridges are burnt. I'm not letting somebody move in my house who used to steal my shit. I wouldn't trust. No. So, I don't know. And then I started to hear back less and less from him. And then I was like, yeah, I'm trying to distance myself a bit because the phone calls for the free cash started getting more and more. And I'm like, I can't afford to send you more money. I'm sorry. I'm not rich. So, I just didn't send him an encouraging text once in a while. Hey, bud, hope you're doing well. And then, whatever. And then a few months go by. I didn't talk to him or text with him or nothing. And a few nights ago, I was sitting out here, and he popped into my head. I was like, I wonder how he's doing. And I saw that he had texted me, and I forgot. And I texted him back. And it gave me a response back by some invalid whatever. So I called the phone number, and said, this number's out of service. I was like, that's fucking weird. He just texted me from this like a few days prior. So I Googled his name. Boom, there it is. Charged with like 7 felony charges. He got into a fight with his girlfriend apparently. There was a gun involved apparently. He shot the wall. Where he got the gun, I have no idea. He's a convicted felon and he had no money. So I'm guessing he maybe stole it. I don't know. Apparently they were having a fight and then he lost his shit and then he shot the wall and the kid was there and then the cops got called and then he took off running and then the cops chased him and he did a Rambo into the forest shit apparently, and then they ended up catching him a day or two later with in some adjacent town. I don't know Virginia well, where he came quietly. And I saw his mugshot. I was like, ah, fuck. I kind of knew it's one of those things where it's inevitable. Hell, he used to tell me when he first got out, he's like, I should just go commit a crime. I'm better off on the inside. I got 3 hots in a cot. I don't have to worry about survival. I was like, yeah, that's a dumb way to think, dude. Prison sucks. You need to get you just gotta fight for it, brother. You gotta fight to get your head right and move forward with life. You can do it. Lots of people have. He couldn't, apparently. And I just messaged with his girlfriend, and I said, what the hell happened? I just got the text from him, and I saw his mugshot with all these weird fucking discharge of a firearm and assault, and I guess they got into a fight and he hit her or something, and her daughter was there, and he shot a gun which he shouldn't have had at all. And then and then I just sent the message an hour ago. I logged into my other account and I said, because I was scrolling through and I saw her post rest in peace Jaremy. I was like, what the fuck? So I logged in and I sent her a message. I was like, what the hell happened? She said he hung himself in jail. I guess he didn't want to go. I mean, what he was charged with as a convicted felon already with history, and there was a firearm involved, he probably would have been looking at 15 to life kind of deal. So I guess he just decided it was time to say goodbye and go back to his mom. It breaks my heart. I wish I could have done more to help the kid. I don't think anybody could have truly helped him. If you had sent him $100,000, he probably would have OD'd and died on drugs. She told me she was going through his stuff, and then she was a recovering addict. She cleaned out one of his drawers, and she found 2 meth pipes and a crack pipe, and I was like, ah, fuck. So he was back on I don't know how he got the money for it, because he was always broke, but when there's a will, there's a way, I guess, right? And now he's gone. A long, sad life with a very sad end. Despite all his bullshit behaviors and the stealing, I felt like a big brother to him, He had no one that gave a fuck his whole life. His own uncle and other family members said, he's nothing but trouble, fuck him. And they just fucking totally disowned him. Very early on. Because they had their own families, and they were all, and I don't blame them in one way, but family, you gotta help family, But I get it. So I became that family for him for a long time. But even I had my breaking point. There's only so much you can do when when you're bending over backwards trying to help somebody fucking, if we lift themselves up and they keep intentionally dropping down to the floor. It's time to say goodbye at that point. Then they're stealing shit and selling shit. I had a big, thick, nice chain I bought off my best friend. Gone. Lies, lies, lies. Oh, it wasn't me. It was some guy I was with. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Used to tell him, you know how I know you're fucking lying? Your lips are moving, just like lawyers and politicians. But your hardcore addicts are fucking liars. They're sneaky, conniving fucks. Do whatever they can and say whatever they can to get that next fix, whatever the drug of choice is. Especially heroin, meth, and crack. You know, those are scumbag drugs. They turn you into a scumbag, and if you're already kind of a scumbag, you're like super scumbag. And sadly, that's how he lived most of his adult life. I know he was haunted by the loss of his mother. What was the song he used to play? It was a breakbeat song, DJ Icy, I think, or one of the other ones. I gotta figure it out. I gotta play it for him. You know, he's up there with his mom now, I guess. Rest in peace, bud. You know, I wish I could have done more to help the kid, but I don't think anybody could have, to be honest. He was on a track, and you know, he just had no hope. When you lose all hope in life, and you're filled with nothing but dread and desperation, and you don't see a silver lining in those dark clouds. And I don't blame him for feeling that way, because it was one too, but it was all a result of his actions too. You know, if I was homeless tomorrow and had no family to turn to and didn't have a penny to my name, it would suck. But I can guarantee you, I wouldn't rob anybody, I wouldn't commit any crimes, I wouldn't turn to drugs. I'd find a homeless shelter, I'd go get whatever job I could and try to get a second one, and then I'd try to do whatever I could to build myself back up, you know. He couldn't do that. And it got the best of him, so rest in peace, Jeremy. Very sad, very sad. Sorry to hear that. That makes my heart hurt a little bit. I had hoped he was going to finally get his shit together. But alas, it didn't come to be. Rest in peace, brother, wherever you are. At least you're hanging with your mom, jamming break beats and smiling once again, I guess. To Jeremy. Oof. And the band plays on. That's life. Peace.